Now that you have already seen the video on how to transform and you already have your pattern pieces designed, so you are ready to start sewing, I'm going to show you all the things that are different from the snowflake, bra and bikini, and those I will show you on the next few minutes on the sew along. However, I imagine that for you to achieve this point and also to be doing this, I assume that you already saw the videos for the snowflake, because some of the particular things of the foam cups are already demonstrated on those videos. So I'm not going to repeat all over again. Okay, let's start. Let's prepare our seams for the lining. Sewing the 𝗔𝗍𝗏. So I bought this one, which is 6 millimeters, and I previously had this one, which was 8 millimeters, and the huge difference, of course 2 millimeters is a huge difference in this kind of supplies, but the big difference for me is that this one I can actually use my wire channeling and insert these ones inside my wire channeling, and this is quite good because it enables you to really hide your 𝗔𝗍𝗏. So I will be using this one. I'm gonna make sure that I have enough, but the other option, if you don't have enough wire channeling, which I think it's also a bit expensive, what I would do is I would sew it to my seam and I would cover with this ribbon, white ribbon, and that was it. And my idea initially was to sew the 𝗔𝗍𝗏 on this side of my seam, then flatten the seam towards the outside, towards the back center, and then sewing it on this side here on top, and then flattening like so, and then on my main sides cover it with the ribbon. This way I will have two pieces of fabric and my ribbon between my 𝗔𝗍𝗏 and my body, and that's another way we can do the 𝗔𝗍𝗏 here. Well, first of all, I'm gonna check if I have enough of this. If I don't, I'm gonna use this technique that I've told you, which I have done in the past, and I also like it. Let me just say that the 𝗔𝗍𝗏 has some stiffness, of course, and so if you want to make this flat, you can iron it. Be careful, place a piece of fabric on top, because this will melt if you have your iron directly on the 𝗔𝗍𝗏. But I will straighten up this edge here with my iron, with a piece of fabric on top, and I will be back here and I will use the 𝗔𝗍𝗏 for my seams, and let's see how we are going to do that. So just for the sake of our tutorial, I'm going to use the ribbon on these edges here on the center back seams, and I will be using my channeling on all the others, okay? Just so you can see the two ways that I think work for this, okay? So for now, if we are going to start with this one, which, as I told you, I'm going to sew this on top here, what I usually do is I'm going to mark from the edge of the fabric 1 centimeter. Let me check my ruler. I will mark 1 centimeter from the edge here, because that will be my seam allowance. But then I also like to add like 2 millimeters more. So it's like 1.2 millimeters, which is almost 9/16 inches, and it's just a little bit more than 3/8 of an inch. And I will do the same here, but on the top here, I will also use the same measurement. And now I'm gonna draw a line, just so I know where to start sewing my 𝗔𝗍𝗏. And I'm gonna do exactly the same on this one here, so that they are similar to each other. Okay, now that I've done this, I'm gonna grab a little bit of 𝗔𝗍𝗏 And I'm going to go to my sewing machine and I'm gonna sew it on top of this side, my back side. And I'm gonna open the fabric like so, and I'm gonna sew the 𝗔𝗿𝗁 here from one edge to the other. So I can already cut if I want. And I'm gonna use a zigzag and I'm gonna secure this from here to my seam. Let's do that for now. This on our seam, we can flatten the seam towards the center back. I believe you can see it here, and we can cover the seam with the ribbon on the sides, on the right sides. And I'm gonna cover it from the one edge to the other, the entire edge. I'm gonna cover it, and of course this time with a straight stitch. Final result on the main sides, and you have this beautiful ribbon, and since the 𝗔𝗿𝗁 is sewn on this side, this will be against your outer fabric, so it has two layers of this fabric and the ribbon between the 𝗔𝗿𝗁 and your body, so you can't feel the edges and it's quite nice. Of course, the other option that I told you about is I'm gonna flatten the seam towards the outer side, the back side, and of course the other option, which I've told you, is to include this channeling and then insert the 𝗔𝗁 inside the channeling. I honestly think this is probably easier, but I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna do it because I really like this, and I'm not gonna spend my channeling, which is very hard to get here in Portugal and very expensive, so I'm not gonna spend this by sewing the 𝗔𝗁 with it. So, but if you want to do it, you should sew a straight stitch here very near the edge, another one on the very edge of the channeling, and once it's done, you get your 𝗔𝗁 and you insert the 𝗔𝗁 inside, leaving a little bit on the upper side and on the lower side also because of the seam allowances. And that would be your second option, okay? I'm gonna keep this and I'm gonna use this later, but for my wire channeling. So for now, I'm gonna repeat the process for all my seams. Something that you can do is create a style line here on the middle and also include 𝗔𝗁 on the middle if you want. So, and you should do the same on the outer fabric. This is completely optional and you should decide if you want to add this center line or not. If you want, it would be very easy. It's the middle here and the middle here. You draw a line and it would be your fake seam. I'm not gonna do it. However, I'm gonna go ahead and sew the 𝗔𝗁 to my 4 seams missing. Now that we have our seams already with the 𝗔𝗁, it's time to combine our main fabric with our lining. And so we just need to place right sides facing together. And for now, I'm gonna sew the top here of my bridge with the seam allowance mentioned on the pattern. I'm gonna do the understitch, flattening the seam against my lining, and I'll be back. With my top edge of the bridge area sewed in place and with the understitch that I told you already done, I'm going to secure my flounce to my main fabric, and just to make sure that it doesn't slide, I'm gonna first secure it to my main fabric, and then I'm gonna add my second fabric, so my lining, and I'm gonna sandwich the flounce inside here between the two fabrics. Okay. Well, but let's do this bit by bit because I also want to add elastic, so let me explain you bit by bit. So the flounce is not even, which means that I have a lot more ruffle effect, more flare on one side, on the beginning of the spiral than in the end, but I really don't mind that. So I'm gonna use my flounce starting with the most flare part, and I'm going to align the edge of my flounce on the edge of my fabric. And what I'm gonna do now is very carefully pin from one edge until the other. So let me check. Yeah, you can see. So we will just position. If you want, you can do a stitch just to secure the lining, the white one to the dotted fabric on the flounce side. If you want to make sure that the fabrics are sewn together, maybe that's easier. So I'm gonna first sew them together, and then I'm gonna do what I was explaining you. So align here very carefully from one edge until the other, and then stitch again very near the edge. Then bring your second fabric on top, align it, and then apply the real seam, the 1 centimeter seam, all around from one edge to the other. But since we still need to attach the zipper, I will come back to the table. Now that we have our flounce in place, if you want to have a flounce with the same flare, it should be a circular flounce, which you also have available on the 𝗦𝗧𝗥𝗘𝗧𝗖𝗵 pattern if you want. And it could be bigger, higher if you want, but all of that is available on that pattern. Well, now I'm gonna add the lining just like I told you before. I'm gonna align very carefully from one edge to the other, and finally I'm gonna sew on the lower part here with the seam allowance mentioned on the pattern, which I did 1 centimeter. And once I have that sewn in place, the lower parts will be done. But we can also go ahead, when we pin this and we sew this, we can also go ahead and sew the top edge here. And now I just remembered that on the top edge, I included a smaller seam allowance. So this is actually wrong. The first marking that I did to apply the boning, the 𝗷𝗍𝗁, because on my pattern, I have 0.5 seam allowance and not 1 centimeter. So I'm gonna sew my seam allowance with 0.5 centimeters on the top edge here, just to make sure that I keep what I had designed, and then all the rest will stay in place. And if it's easier for you, instead of doing the lower parts, you can do, and it's even a better option, we can do the top part here first, one edge and also the other one. We open the seam, we do the understitch on the side of our lining, and then we come back to these sides, and then we attach the lower part here, okay? That would be a better option. However, we also want to attach our zipper. And when we sew this edge here, our zipper should already be in place. So I'm going to show you exactly how to place your zipper in place before you even sew the top edge there. So this is on the right side, and this is an invisible zipper. So it will be here, like so. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the 0.5 seam allowance, which is here. And on my zipper, I can see the top edge where I have my plastic there. So I'm also going to trace that just to make sure that I can really see where it is. Okay. And with my zipper facing up on my table, it will be placed like so. So this means that with your zipper facing up, you should move it like I'm doing here, and then align the top edge of the plastic with the seam that you are going to sew. And once you have that aligned, you have your zipper in place. I'm going to pin the top here of my zipper. And I'm going to grab my zipper foot, and with my zipper foot, I'm going to secure the zipper all the way down here. But I'm just going to do a little bit for now, because I still want, let me think. Yeah, before we keep going, I'm just going to apply the seam allowance, the 1 centimeter seam allowance on the lower part here, just a little bit, because I will do the entire edge with my lining, but for now, only with the main fabric. I just want to make sure that this small area here is with the correct seam allowance, because we want to include the zipper and we need the seam to already be final, so that when we attach the zipper, the fabric is in the correct position, right? So I'm actually going to sew just a little bit here, and of course repeat what you are going to do here on the other side. I'm going to do that. So secure this here, and then I'm going to come to the table. Now that I've sewn that small bit there, I'm ready to sew my zipper. So on the first side, again, take your zipper, the edge of your zipper, right to the place where you are then going to sew the two fabrics together, so your seam line, and pin the zip in place from the top edge until the lower part here. And the zipper is going to open lower than your flounce. This is a very small flounce. I have a top which I'm going to pop up an image with a bigger flounce, which is actually very cute, and it fits me very, very well. But this time I did a smaller flounce, so let's see how this looks in the end. And I'm gonna sew it as much as I can till the ends of the zipper. So probably I will be able to come right down here, okay? Straight here. And once I have one side done, I'm gonna repeat the process for my second side of the back. This is much easier if you have an invisible zipper foot, which I don't, so I'm gonna go ahead and use my normal regular zipper foot. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move my needle to the left to make sure that I really go most as I can near the teeth of my zipper, but don't sew over it. That's what I'm gonna try and do. Let's see if I can do it. I'm gonna try and do my best. of the zipper as close as I can will make the best result possible. If you have an invisible zipper foot, I would really suggest you use it, okay? But I've done my best. I went again and I tried to go as close as I could. And we can now repeat the process on our second side. So I have already sewn the zipper on both sides, but as you can see, this is disastrous. This is very bad here because the connection is wrong. And now that I realized what I've done, I think that I should have done this differently. I should have marked on my fabric the beginning of the zipper and the end of the zipper with my pen, and then I should have sewn these two together with the seam allowance from the edge until I reached the marked line from the lower part of my zipper, so it would be sewn already together, and this way I'm sure that the seams would match, and then I would secure the zipper. So I have made this one, and it actually, the zipper was too short, so it wouldn't fit me. And since I don't know if I'm gonna edit this and include this or not, but this was also a big shit. So I grab a scissor, I cut it, and I throw it in the garbage. And I decided to do it all over again. This time I have my lining already prepared and my main piece already prepared. The difference for the other one is that this time I overlocked the edge here and the edge on the lining, and also on the center back seams. And I also did a very different flounce. This time this was made with a circular flounce, which, as I told you, you have available on the 𝗦𝗧𝗥𝗘𝗧𝗖𝗵 pattern. I have chosen 12 centimeter high for the flounce, and this will make even flare all around my flounce. My zipper will be longer because the flounce high is bigger than the other one, and so I'm sure that now it will fit me. So the next step on our sew along today will be making the seam allowance on the lower edge of my flounce. And I'm gonna do this very simply by just pressing iron with this folded. Then I'm gonna stitch a very thin and near the edge stitch all around, and I'm gonna leave it like it is. But I'm gonna show you. To the straight stitch machine, and I'm gonna stitch very near the edge here with my straight stitch all along the edge of my lower parts of my seam allowance for the flounce. Allowance and the edge of my flounce is all stitched, as you could see. I'm gonna leave this like it is. You could cut this fold again and sew again, but I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna leave it as it is because I've done this in the past and I really don't mind this finish, okay? So I'm gonna leave it like it is. Now regarding the rest of the finish, and this already takes into consideration my last experiment, which you saw went directly to the garbage. But this time I hope I can make this perfect on camera and it will be fine. So I'm gonna attach the flounce on the center back seam here, but first I'm gonna overlock this. My window is going to be open today all day, so if you hear the train or a big noise, it's the train. I'm moving out of this house very soon, in a few months, and I will not have any room available on the new house to have my sewing machines. So I have to figure out a solution on how to keep doing this for you and for myself. Well, let's continue. So I'm gonna place right sides facing together. I align the top edge of my flounce. I'm gonna do it all around the edge until I reach the other sides, and then I'm gonna overlock just like I did here, and then I will come back to explain you the next step. So now I'm gonna use 1 centimeter seam allowance, and with a straight stitch I'm gonna stitch my flounce to my main fabric. My flounce is sewn to my main fabric, and now it's time to secure our zipper on our center back. And so this is one of the sides, okay, and this will be the other side. I have a very long invisible zipper, and if you have zipper foot, invisible zipper foot, it's better than the one I'm gonna use, which is a regular zipper foot. And since I really want this to fit me and to open, I'm just going to mark the lower part of my zipper on my main fabric, and the part on the top edge there, I know that the seam allowance on the top edge is only 5 millimeters. So if I mark 5 millimeters on the top edge here, five millimeters is like 1/4 of an inch, okay? I'm gonna mark it here. And I'm also going to mark the center back seam allowance, which is 1 centimeter, okay? And now you have your zipper teeth, and you have the top edge of your zipper, and if you place your zipper straight here, now let me first mark the lower edge here. So I really want it to be very long, so I'm gonna leave 2 centimeters from the lower edge, and I'm gonna mark also that line. Now grab the zipper, and the zipper is with the beautiful side and right side facing up, and you want to place right side with right side. So I'm gonna open it, and I'm gonna turn the right side with my zipper teeth here, and I'm gonna turn it to the right side with right side, and I'm gonna align the top edge of my zipper teeth with the corner of my seam allowances there. Just perfect. I'm gonna secure it in place with a pin, and I'm gonna secure the entire zipper with pins. If you want, you can try and press iron open your zipper like so, like moving the teeth outwards, so that when you are on your sewing machine, it's easier to sew very, very near the edge where you want it to sew. However, this is plastic, and the warm iron can also damage the zipper, so I'm not gonna do it. I'm just going to try and move the zipper teeth out of the way while I'm sewing, okay? But I'm gonna film so that you can see how I'm gonna attempt this. If you can't do it on the first sewing, you can go and stitch the zipper again, trying to be a little bit closer than you went the first time. But for now, I'm gonna pin until I reach the lower part here. No, I was already doing something wrong. Ta-da! I'm gonna grab the other sides of my pattern, and I'm going to align it perfectly, which is something that I haven't done perfectly on the other version that I threw away. I'm gonna pin, and then I'm gonna pin the flounce together. And remember, we had marked 2 centimeters as the edge of our zipper. So the 2 centimeters that we have marked, we want to keep them. So I'm gonna mark them again here, 2 centimeters. And I'm going to my straight stitch machine, and using the 1 centimeter seam allowance, I'm gonna stitch this part here so that this is closed and stitched together, okay? So let's sew this before we attach the zipper. When I reach this lower part here, I'm gonna open the seam, and I'm gonna keep coming with my zipper just like I was doing, and I'm gonna try and sew until I reach the area where my lower part of the flounce was sewn. I can go a little bit further, like 1/4 of an inch, 0.5 centimeters, and then I stop. So to make this the best I can, I will have to stick my nose like 5 centimeters from this. It's how I like to do it. So I'm sorry if the filming is not going to be perfect, but I really need to, with my hands, flatten the zipper doing this movement like this, so I can stitch very on the edge here where I have this line here from the teeth. So to do this, I really need to use both hands, so I'm sorry if I'm on the way, and I'm also going to stick my face very near, so if you see my tongue out or something, you will know that, well, this is really something I need to do.